We were lucky enough to be involved in the project with Christopher, Helen and Rob from the beginning. Right? This allowed us time to listen, to understand the projects, to understand the clients, to understand the vision. Right? We want to add layers of narrative onto our story. And the reason we want to do this is because we want the solution to reveal itself to us, right? We want it to tell us what it wants to be. And I think it did. It revealed itself to us the one day when we were standing in the room and we said, what about CLT? We used the criteria about a builder, about fast builds, about artists, sustainability, open space, minimal finishes, large blank walls, right? We were only able to do this because we were involved from the beginning. Otherwise, the solution would have come to us fully formed, and we don't want that. We want it to come to us blurry, and then we focus together. That's what design is. That's what a collaboration is, right? We understood what success looked like, and we used that to guide the solution. And as Rob said, everything just fell into place. How rare is that? The plot of land actually consists of two different bits of land. It actually consists of a building, and adjacent to the building it consists of a vacant bit of land. And the first meeting we had in 2017 was with the clients and with the architect. And the main purpose of that meeting was to talk about, do we build a brand new building in the vacant bit of the land, or do we do alterations and additions to the existing building? And there's lots of nuances, there's no right or wrong answer here. And I think as you see through the discovery of the project, you can absolutely see that you can be torn by making these two decisions.
We've actually been through, this is the third iteration of what we could build on the site. And we decided to make it easy for ourselves. We just build a standalone gallery out on the open car space, park space next door. And we thought we'd just build a standalone gallery. But the council viewed that gallery as a reception centre.
The reasons for not building in the vacant lot is it's useful space. We couldn't do anything commercially on it because they were the planning restrictions. So if we were just going to do more residential accommodation, up on the roof was part of the natural way to look at it. It already had quite an extensive sort of garden and stuff on top. So that's their focus, and that's where we could get most of that. And that's basically how we stayed.
We've been through several iterations of what materials to use, but I wanted materials that would be one-stop materials, that you put it in and you didn't have to refinish it and reclad it and do it again and plaster it, you know.
But one thing that did stick out about the decision to go lightweight is that the existing building is old and we knew nothing about it. And we were saying, okay, if we put in a heavy structure, we would need new columns, we would need new foundations. And everyone in the meeting was like, we don't want to go there. Because in order for us to do foundations, we need a geotechnical engineer, we need to do some exploration of the existing structure, we need to do some intensive exploration about what the existing foundations are made of and where they're founded, because we have to match that. Or we would have had to do some sort of judgment about that. And as soon as you dig a hole in the ground and start digging, you don't know, the risks are high. You don't know what's there. You don't know how far you're going to be digging. You don't know what the existing foundations are. All these things are kind of up in the air. So we were kind of saying, okay, we have to drive a solution here that does not alter the existing foundations. And the discussion then went to, okay, well, what do we want to see? Like, we're in the gallery space, we're looking up at the underside of the first floor, we're looking at the ceiling. You know, what do we want to see? Do we want to see exposed timber, right? Or do we want to, and acoustics came into this conversation as well, with an exposed timber framed floor, you're going to hear all the sounds. So Christopher, are you interested in, do you want to be able to isolate the sounds between these two buildings? So that became a conversation as well. That became a bit of narrative for the story. And then I suggested at that moment, as we were looking up at the ceiling going, what do we want to look at? So at the moment we were looking at the underside of the metal framed roof with a steel structure. And I said, okay, well, we have an option here to see the exposed timber joists. But you know, there's another material that we could introduce here, and that's CLT.
No, I haven't worked with CLT at all. I was familiar with it, but not to the point of actually working with it. And I find the benefits of it, well, they show for themselves, really. The thing I loved about working with CLT was the fact that it was a system that provided me with a whole heap of aspects in one hit. It was structurally, gave me a floor, a ceiling, a surface to work on, and some of them were pre-sealed for the bathrooms, and the roof came watertight panels, so it was a nice, complete system.
Yeah, and I think one of the important bits of this is that we didn't force any of the materials into this solution, right? The reason we chose CLT was not because we love CLT, not because we love timber, although we do, but because it suited this build, right? This was the perfect way to build this building. It acted as the structural solution to the building. It was a long, thin, narrow tunnel without any return walls. There's not a lot of solutions, including timber framing generally, which can provide that solution. It was actually the power of CLT, or the strength or the structural capacity of CLT, which actually allowed that solution to happen. Had we done timber framing, we would have had to put in other steel frames, or we would have had to put in something that wasn't authentic to the design in order to get this solution. But because it is the shape that it is, or the form that it is, or the architectural form that it is, I don't think that I would have suggested this CLT as an option if I didn't think that it was actually a pure, authentic solution, structural solution to the project.
The design of the building and the flow between Rob and Damian was critical to getting everything, so we could do it more or less like, like a Besser block construction. Come in one day, start the steel. Come in the next day, plonk the wood on the top. Come in the next day, seal it. And so we actually built I guess this is about 250 square metres. We built a 250 square metre building completely in under 6 months. That included demolition, construction, finishing. The last thing to go in was the glass wall at the front of the building, which delayed us probably a month.
There weren't that many difficulties involved. There was a bit of thought had to go into some walls, but the panels, it just kind of sorted itself, I thought.
A lot of our friends walk in and just go, oh, wow, because it's a 7 metres by 22 metre open space, and very few people have got that. I mean, you can fit 2 apartments in here, but we've built something for the life we lead, and so when people come in, also, it's an architectural space, and so they walk in and they see a piece of architecture where the space has been highly considered, and the openings is considered, the proportions have been considered, and technically the feat of making a roof that's 22 metres long slope perfectly from one end to the other, and to have it arrive on site and go up in 4 days and be perfectly aligned is absolutely, most people get blown away because they've never seen a ceiling like this. And imagine if you were foolish enough to gyprock it, you'd be an absolute idiot because it looks so good and it works so well. So if you've got a good architect and a good engineer, and you've got a good sense of what you want, you can actually get a really good building with this. And if I was going to build another structure, I'd use CLT again in a heartbeat.
I get a great deal of satisfaction out of working with materials in the form that they come. And I have no problem with mixing timbers of various things or species and things, because it's all timber. I have no trouble with variations in ceramic tiles or marble or so on. That's the nature of it all. And I think some of the best feel of materials comes from just the minimal thing.
You either choose the material and you engineer or architect the building around that material, or you say, here's what we want to achieve, now we want to choose the materials to achieve that. And I think you've really got to at the beginning, and that's what's beautiful about the co-creation process, is that what is actually the driving factor here? What is the process that we're going to follow in order to get to that? Christopher never had the idea that he was going to be given a CLT building. Never. He never had that in his head. He didn't even know what it was. But through that co-creation process, that's what we gave him, in fact, that's what he loves about it now, is the fact that it is CLT. But it wasn't that we want a CLT build, let's force CLT into a building that doesn't deserve to be CLT. It's the fact that we're authentic to the process, and we're authentic to the narrative, and we're authentic to the story that gave us this. And I think there's a lot more pride in that solution because you know it suits the building.
Well, I think that often the combination of factors, the architect, the engineer, and the client, it can be an opaque operation. And the other thing that you need to have, I think, to make this really work is that the client needs to know what they want, and the architect has to have a vision for the spatial arrangements, and the engineer has to understand both of those things. And fortunately, I'd like to thank Rob and Damian, because the three of us, the team really, made this all happen. We had a very good builder too, but really the forethought to make it work was a combination of a really a good team and skilled people, with vision.